Hare Krishna. We continue reading from Caitanya Caritamrita Adi-Lila, chapter 5. We have been reading the purport of text 41. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So I'll just quickly read the translation of the verse. We have been reading the translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shilpa Prabhupada. Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Anirudh constitute this second quadruple. They are purely transcendental. So continuing to read from the purport. Shankaracharya says, Sutra 43, that devotees think that Pradyumna, who is considered to represent the senses, has sprung from Sankarshan, who is considered to represent the living entities. So the living entities, the master of the living entities is Sankarshan, and master of the mind and senses is Pradyumna. Yes. Now, what is Shankaracharya saying is, but we cannot actually experience that a person can produce senses. Devotees also say that from Pradyumna has sprung Anirudh, who is considered to represent the ego. But Shankaracharya says that unless the devotees can show how ego and the means of knowledge can generate from a person, such an explanation of the Vedanta Sutra cannot be accepted for no other philosophers except the sutras in that way. So Shankaracharya is saying that how the ego is coming from a person, how is it generated from a person? But ego comes from a person. No, I means what? A person, right? The very fact when we say I, whether it's false ego or true ego, that means a person. It refers immediately to a person. So anyway, reading on. So Shankaracharya also says, Sutra 44, that he cannot accept the devotee's idea that Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Anirudh are equally as powerful as the absolute personality of Godhead, full in the six opulences of knowledge, wealth, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation, and free from the flaw of generation at a certain point. So the devotees understand that Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Anirudh, they are transcendental. They are as powerful as the absolute personality of Godhead. That they have all the opulences, the six opulence. Bhagwan, when we do Bhagwan, when we break down the term, Bhag means opulence, Wan means possessor. One who possesses all the opulences is called Bhagwan. And then what are the opulences? All knowledge, all the knowledge. Someone may claim to have some knowledge, but someone who possesses all the knowledge. Wealth, someone may claim to be the wealthiest person, but who has gotten all the wealth that exists? Strength. So some of us may be strong, but who's the strongest of everyone? Not only in this universe, but even in the spiritual world. Fame, the most famous. Beauty and renunciation. So even if they are full expansions, the flaw of generation remains. Now this is what Shankaracharya is saying. That because he is saying that they are not transcendental. That's why he's saying the flaw remains. So Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Anirudh, being distinct individual persons, cannot be one. Therefore, if they're accepted as absolute, full, and equal, there would have to be many personalities of Godhead. But there is no need to accept that there are many personalities of Godhead, because acceptance of one omnipotent God is sufficient for all purposes. the acceptance of more than one God is contradictory to the conclusion that Lord Vasudeva, the absolute personality of Godhead, is one without a second. So Shankaracharya is saying, oh, if there are so many Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Anirudh, and they're all transcendental, and they have all the opulences of Narayan, then that means there are many gods. But how can be? Because God has to be one. Otherwise, there's no meaning to have God. So even if we agree to accept that the quadruple forms of Godhead are identical, we cannot avoid the incongruous flaw of non-eternity. Unless we accept that there are some differences among the personalities, there is no meaning to the idea that Sankarshan is an expansion of Vasudeva, Pradyumna is an expansion of Sankarshan, and Anirudh is an expansion of Pradyumna. So here, the devotee's explanation is given. Prabhupada is explaining to us, there must be a distinction between cause and effect. For example, a pot is distinct from the earth from which it is made. And therefore, we can ascertain that the earth is the cause of the earth is the cause and the pot is the effect. Without such distinctions, there is no meaning to cause and effect. So there has to be certain distinction. That's the reason we are saying, oh, first is Vasudeva, from Vasudeva comes Sankarshan, from Sankarshan then is coming Pradyumna, and then from Pradyumna, Anirudh is coming. This is the reason the distinction is given. So there is certain distinction. Okay. And then Prabhupada is explaining to us that although the pot is coming from the earth, it's still different. Inside the pot, you can put water, it's functional, but earth, although earth is the cause of the pot, if you're going to put water on the earth, it's just going to seep in. So there are distinctions. So the devotees accept, furthermore, the followers of the Pancharatric principles do not accept any differences in knowledge and qualities between Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Anirudh. The devotees accept all these expansions to be one, but why should they restrict oneness to these quadruple expansions? Certainly, we should not do so for all living entities, from Brahma to the insignificant ant, are expansions of Vasudeva as accepted in all the Shrutis and Smritis. So the devotees are saying that the expansions are coming, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Anirudh. They have equal knowledge, the qualities are the same. And even we living entities, where are we coming from? We are also expansions of Vasudeva. All the living entities from Brahma to the ant, we are all expansions of the Lord. Only the quantity is different. The quality is the same. That's the reason it's simultaneous, one and different. It's simultaneous. We living entities are simultaneously one and different from the Lord. One in the quality, different in the quantity. So Shankaracharya also says, Sutra 45, that the devotees who follow the Pancharatra state that God's qualities and God himself, as the owner of the qualities, are the same. But how can the Bhagavata school state that the six opulences, wisdom, wealth, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation, are identical with Lord Vasudeva? This is impossible. So the devotees say that God, his qualities, his opulences, they are the same. That's the Pancharatra knowledge system. But Shankaracharya is saying, how is it the same? How is it the same? It's impossible. Now, in his Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Purva 5.165 to 193, Srila Rupa Goswami has refuted the charges directed against the devotees by Sripad Shankaracharya regarding the explanation of the quadruple forms Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Anirudh. So the correct explanation is given by Srila Rupa Goswami in Lagu Bhagavatamrita. So he's saying, Rupa Goswami says that these 4 expansions of Narayan are present in the spiritual sky where they are famous as Mahavasta. Among them, Vasudev is worshipped within the heart by meditation because he's the predominating deity of the heart, as explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 4.3.23. So the Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Anirudh, where they are coming from? They are coming from the Narayan. Because Balaramji, he expands as Narayan, and from Narayan comes this 4 Chaturvyuha expansions. So Sankarshan, the second expansion, is Vasudev's personal expansion for pastimes. And since he's the reservoir of all living entities, he is sometimes called Jiva. So Vasudev is expanded from Narayan, right? All these expansions are coming from Narayan. And then from Vasudev, Sankarshan is coming. Why is Sankarshan coming? For pastimes. And we, the living entities, are coming from this Sankarshan. That's why he's called the master of the living entities. Balaramji is the master of the living entities because we are coming from him. So the beauty of Sankarshan is greater than that of innumerable full moons radiating light beams. He is worshipable as the principle of ego. He has invested Anantadev with all the potencies of sustenance. For the dissolution of the creation, he also exhibits himself as the super soul in Rudra, in Adharma, the personality of irreligion, in Sarpa, snakes, in Antaka, Yamraj, the Lord of Death, and in the demons. So Sankarshan is the living entities are coming from Sankarshan, and then he's worshipable as the principle of ego. And that's the reason Lord Shiva, he's always meditating. Who is he meditating on? On Lord Sankarshan. He's always meditating on Lord Sankarshan. And it's Lord Sankarshan who has given this potency of maintaining, of destroying the creation. It's coming from him. So if we want to understand which expansion of Krishna is responsible for what, then we can try to understand these details. But we can also generally try to understand that all the expansions, Etecha Amsa Kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam, all these expansions, plenary expansions, they're all coming from Krishna. He's the original personality of Godhead. And so everything is emanating from him. Pradyumna, the third manifestation, appears from Sankarshan. Those who are especially intelligent worship this Pradyumna expansion of Sankarshan as the principle of the intelligence. The goddess of fortune always chants the glories of Pradyumna in the place known as Ilavrata Varsha, and she always serves him with great devotion. His complexion appears sometimes golden and sometimes bluish, like new monsoon clouds in the sky. He's the origin of the creation of the material world. And he has invested his creative principle in Cupid. It is by his direction only that all men and demigods and other living entities function with energy for regeneration. So the creative energy, the creative principle is in Pradyumna. He's the Lord of intelligence. He's coming from Sankarshan, as we said. And it is by his direction that we also have this creative principle. We also have this, the creative function. Anirudh, the fourth of the quadruple expansions, is worshipped by great sages and psychologists as the principle of the mind. His complexion is similar to the bluish hue of a blue cloud. He engages in the maintenance of the cosmic manifestation and is the super soul of Dharma, the deity of religiosity, the Manus, progenitors of mankind, and the Devtas, demigods. The Moksha Dharma, Vedic scripture, indicates that Pradyumna is the deity of the total mind, whereas Anirudh is the deity of the total ego. But previous statements regarding the quadruple forms are confirmed in the Pancharatra Tantras in all respects. So Anirudh is the deity controlling the mind. And he is in charge of maintaining this entire material manifestation, maintenance. And so he's the super soul of Dharma, deity of religiosity, the Manus. Because the Manus are in charge of maintenance, right? They are the rulers of mankind, progenitors of mankind. The demigods, they are involved in the maintenance of the universe. So Anirudh is involved in maintaining the universe. Pradyumna is involved in the creative energy. Sankarshan is involved in the destructive energy, in the dissolution of the creation. In the Laghu Bhagavatam Purva 586 to 100, there is a lucid explanation of the inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, negating Shankaracharya's statements. The Mahavaraha Purana declares, Sarve Nitya Shasvatascha Dehas Tasya Paratmanaha Hano Padana Rahita Neva Prakriti Ja Kvachit. All the varied expansions of the personality of Godhead are transcendental and eternal, and all of them repeatedly descend to all the different universes of the material creation. So all of them, all the expansions, incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are all eternal. Their forms are transcendental. Their forms are not material. And they keep coming to this material realm in different planets, in different universes. And their bodies are composed of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, are everlasting. There is no chance of their decay, for they are not creations of the material world. So their forms are not made of this blood and muscle and bile and mucus. No, it's of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. And it's everlasting, never deteriorates, never decays. Why? Because their forms are transcendental, spiritual, not material. Their forms are concentrated spiritual existence, always complete with all spiritual qualities and devoid of material contamination. So we have to understand that the spiritual form is different than the material form. Material form has all this contamination, all the defects, but spiritual form has no defects. It is pure, completely pure, eternal, bliss, knowledge, everlasting. Confirming these statements, the Pancharatra asserts, Maniryatha vibhagena nilapita dibiryutaha rupa bedam avapnoti dhyana beda tatha chyutaha. The infallible personality of Godhead can manifest his body in different ways according to different modes of worship, just as the Vaidurya gem can manifest itself in various colors, such as blue and yellow. Each incarnation is distinct from all the others. This is possible by the Lord's inconceivable potency, by which he can simultaneously represent himself as one, as various partial forms, and as the origin of these partial forms. Nothing is impossible for his inconceivable potencies. So the Supreme Lord, he's the Supreme Lord. He has all these potencies. He has so much different potencies, his power. That's why he's called omnipotent. So he can appear in any form he likes. He can come. It said if a Vaidurya gem can have so many colors, why can't the Supreme Lord come in different ways? He can. And each incarnation is distinct. He can simultaneously represent himself as one, as various partial forms, and as the origin of these partial forms. So he himself is separate as the Supreme Lord, and he has so many other incarnations which are coming from him. And it is said that why he can't do it? Why is it not possible for the Supreme Lord not to be able to have his own personal form and yet have multiple forms? Why is it not possible? Then there would be no meaning to the word God. There would be no meaning to the word omnipotent or omnipresent. He can do anything he likes. He has those potencies, inconceivable potencies, but just because we are unable to understand how this potency works, it's inconceivable to us. And that's the reason we say, oh, he can't do it. But because it's inconceivable to us, we can't just say, say he can't do it. And even if we say he can't do it, does it mean it becomes a fact? Because I am not able to understand this inconceivable potency, it doesn't mean it's a fact. It just means I am not able to understand it, but it exists. Like, for example, the law of gravity. The law of gravity. I don't understand how the law of gravity works. I don't. And whether I believe the law of gravity exists or no, it does not change the fact. My belief does not change the fact of the law of gravity. It's there, it's doing its work. But because it's inconceivable to me, and I say, no, there is no law of gravity because it's inconceivable to me, it doesn't change the fact at all. Similarly, the Lord's potencies are inconceivable to us. And because they are inconceivable to us, we cannot negate that the Lord does not have these potencies. And even if we negate them, then that is my belief. It does not change the fact. My belief cannot change the truth. My belief cannot change the fact. Is that okay? Any questions, comments? Anything to add? Still. If no, then we'll stop here for today. Shri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.